Hey, I have an unbelievable guest on today. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I'm Ken Walls. I'm your host, and I am really excited about today's guest. This lady has been a friend of mine, although we've never met in person. We've been friends on social media for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years probably. And you wait until you hear this story. It is going to change your life, I promise you. So I want to welcome my dear friend, Sherry Gideons, to the show. Sherry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I am so excited to have you on because you have information that probably not many people have. So, Sherry, I just adore you. I think you're amazing. And I can't wait for you to share your story. So why don't we start with you telling everybody, like where you were born and raised?
So I was born in Idaho. My father was in the Air Force, and so we traveled all over. And then we wound up in San Jose, and so in California. And so I was raised in California, but later I got married and I lived in Europe. I lived in Germany for a number of years and then made my way back to California. So that's where I was raised.
So you were primarily raised in California.
Correct. Northern California, to be exact.
Okay. So, when you so you went to school there, high school, middle school, all that?
Yeah. So I went to middle school in San Jose and then later went, my sophomore year in high school, we moved to Modesto, California. And I ended up living there until I graduated from high school and made my way out into the world.
Yeah. Did you go to college?
I did. So I have 2 degrees in the University of Phoenix. I have a degree in communications and journalism broadcasting.
Wow.
And I have a degree in communications and technology because I love to talk.
So is that what did you end up getting into broadcasting, or what did you end up doing after college?
Well, I did that for a little bit, and then I ended up moving on to the pro bodybuilding world. I spent 30 years in the professional fitness and bodybuilding industry as a competitor and a fitness model in the magazines.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen some of the pictures.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They're on her Facebook page, guys. No, I mean, and obviously you excelled. You did very well at that. Very well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, my personality is very over the top and I play full out. I have a very vibrant personality. So everything that I really attempted in life was, about being out there in the open and having fun.
Right. So along the way, when you were doing all of this, this show is Breakthrough Walls. It's literally to help people have a breakthrough that gets stuck, right?
Right.
So along the way during, I don't know, college and after college, did you hit any bumps in the road that you thought, man, how do I get through this?
Well, one of the things, I want to back up for a second. One of the things that I struggled with, and I'm sure a lot of us struggle with throughout our lives, is weight issues. My family was from Oklahoma, and so I was a person who enjoyed food. My mother cooked the down-home good stuff, and
go mom.
Yes, go mom. And so I had a lot of issues with emotions and stuffing those emotions down with food because, like anybody else in this world, we want to be liked, we want to be appreciated, we want to be loved. And
Yeah.
so in this case, I'm a believer that you attract what you are. And so
Right.
as I was struggling, through adolescence and later after, the 18 years old, I ended up getting married to a man who was in the military, and we got stationed in Germany. And it was
Mm.
there that he was gone all the time. And so I would go to the gym on the base and I would work out. And so one day this Army powerlifting coach approached me and he says, "Hey," he says, "would you be interested in joining the Army powerlifting team?" And so I ended up joining that as,
Wow.
believe it or not, as an overweight girl. I mean, at the time I was probably 170, 174 pounds, and I'm 5'4". So I'm not
Wow.
a tall person. I'm, relatively short, but really it was about, once again, trying to fit in, because I had, this was during the 80s when, bodybuilding had come out, and it was, where women were starting to come onto the scene. And I
Mhm.
really wanted to be part of that. But like I said, I struggled with low self-esteem around food. And so
Yeah.
fast forward, we're back in the United States after that tour in Germany, and we're in Modesto, and I happened to attract, people who were very prevalent in the pro bodybuilding industry, in the magazines, those kind of people. And so I
Sure.
started training with them and moved into the scene of that industry. And the industry was evolving so much at the time that you could do a show and compete and try to meet up to the expectations at that time, and it still wasn't good enough. There was always things you needed to improve, and that really started to take a toll on my self-esteem. And I got to the point in my life where I thought, well, I must not be able to eat at all, because I had gone from, being overweight to trying to fit into that industry, and eventually using steroids and other sports enhancement drugs to
Yeah.
try to get the muscle and the different cuts that I needed in my body to, be liked and approved of, and to be a winner
Right.
and,
Right.
be successful.
Sure. Yep.
And seriously, it got to the point where I thought, I must not be able to eat at all. And
Mm.
during that time in the industry, you're listening to all these different people that are steroid dealers and so-called professional people who had, the knowledge of what to do to get your body to that level.
Right.
And it got to a point, like I said, I realized I must not be able to eat at all. That's how bad my mindset had gotten at that point. And long story
Wow.
short, I ended up having a massive heart attack and dying
What age?
at 30,
Oh
right
my.
between 30 and 31. I had a massive heart attack and died.
You died.
I died. Yeah, I was about 80 pounds. Could you imagine me at about 80 pounds?
Wow.
I couldn't even see it.
So is that whole the potassium depletion, or is that what causes that?
Yeah, well, in my situation, I had gotten to the point where I was doing all kinds of things to try to be, the perfect person. And so in this situation, I was literally seeing myself fat in the mirror. You know how they say that people have bulimia and anorexia and, all these issues? Well, I literally saw myself fat and overweight in the mirror. I could not see what I had gotten myself down to. And
Wow.
and so I was doing things that were, helping me to keep my high, because
Yeah.
at the time I had gotten addicted to methamphetamine. That became another avenue for me to not eat. And
Yeah.
and so now I'm not eating at all, and
Wow.
forcing myself to, throw up, and I'm
Oh
drinking
my.
water in order to make myself throw up so that I can keep my high. And it's, a battle that I had gotten to in my life, all to be loved, accepted, and approved of.
And you thought that that's what it was going to take.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, I desperately wanted love.
Yeah.
and acceptance. And I had people that were surrounding me, believe it or not, that were beautiful on the outside, drop dead gorgeous and amazing, fantastic built bodies, but
Yeah.
just as lost and insecure on the inside as myself.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible. So like, and for anyone listening right now, my wife is on here, Jill. She just shared it out. Thank you, babe. So uh, for the record, somebody as beautiful as you, 5'4", 100 pounds or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
here you are in the bodybuilding world and competing,
Yep.
probably winning,
Mm-hmm.
and you felt worthless, basically,
That's right.
completely. And to the point where it depleted your body of all of the necessary nutrients to stay alive,
Mm-hmm.
and you had a heart attack at 30 years old and you died.
Yep.
How long were you dead? Because obviously it didn't stay that way. How long were you?
Well, honestly, long enough to be shown my entire life over through all that I had given to, long enough to be shown all of the purposes that I came in this lifetime to potentially fulfill,
Wow.
long enough to be shown why we are all here and the power that each and every one of us has within us. And honestly, long enough to be shown the creation of the universe, the infinite power that is available to all of us, and to be surrounded by thousands of spirits who had once lived here in the physical flesh,
Wow.
and to be given the choice to come back and fulfill the purposes that I came to remember and that I came to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's freaking powerful. Well, I just got chills everywhere. So okay. I could ask you a gazillion questions, but we'll try to keep it on, because this could get derailed and I don't want to do that. But wow, where do I even start with that? I don't know where to even start. So you at 30 years old you died, and you long enough to see a lot of unbelievable things, right? And you came back, obviously, and what did you wake up in the hospital? Where were you?
Yeah.
Your body, I guess.
So my body was on the bed because it happened at my house. I already knew that I was getting close to this occurring, because
Oh,
this is a very deep story. And that's why I've shared it at various moments, throughout the last 22 years, because of where society has been in its ability to receive the depth of this message. You have to have courage.
right.
It takes
Yeah.
courage and strength and,
Yeah.
an inner knowing, but also surrender. I had to learn to surrender to this amazingness that is not only within me, but each and every one of you, all of you. I mean, you have
Right.
it. I don't have anything you don't have. You have it.
Wow.
To access it, you need to touch it and allow it. And so in this case right now, I was dead on the bed, and yeah. And I had
Jeez.
having these incidents. I had been having these incidents prior. I knew that I was close to death, because a lot of us start asking those questions. Why am I here? What am I meant to do? Is this all there is to life? Pain, suffering, frustration, lack, limitation, scarcity, these questions that go on in all of us at some point in our lives. And in this situation, that was occurring to me. And I was having incidents occur. As deep as it sounds, spirits were showing up and they were communicating with me. And they were people who had the same issues that I had: food issues, low self-esteem issues. And they would share with me, that they didn't want to happen to me what had happened to them. So you can imagine I'm thinking, my God, what's happening? Am I being called to die? Am I going to die?
Oh, these are like dead people. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Yep. So imagine as a human being here in the physical world, and I'm having these occurrences happen. Imagine how anybody would start to question what's happening. And
Reality.
that's right. That's right. Reality. And some would say, oh my God, well, it was probably where you were at in your life. You were hitting bottom. You were, in a really bad place. But I realized over the last 22 years, all I can do is share this with you. All I can do is, give it and allow you to receive it at whatever level you are in your life.
And there's a lot of because we have a mutual friend, Sherry Gideons, right?
Yes.
And she's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, right? And I know there's a lot of people that think that it's evil or it's and I just don't think so. I think that it's a different level of consciousness.
That's exactly
right. And existence. So you came back, and is it true that there are things that you can't talk about?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I guess I can't even ask what those are since you can't talk about them. But
well, I can share this. What I would like to say though is when we surrender this body, this flesh, we're one with everything. We are all things. We know all things. And we are one with everything in existence. The birds, the trees, the flowers, you, me. I'm not separate from you. I am you and you are me. And the beauty of it is it's like walking on water. I mean, you're free. You're fully free. But it's even more than that. It's love beyond human understanding. So I talk about love and I say, all of us want it.
Yeah.
And yet at that level, it's beyond really what I can articulate, because it's a freedom that all of us want to know. And it's available even right now physically. But being willing to share this is what, look at all the seekers out there. I always say what you're seeking is already seeking you.
Right.
Because you're to you. But
I love that.
Here's the other thing I really wanted to say is that, I come from religion. My family, my grandfather was a minister.
Wow.
I was raised in the Baptist religion. My father was a deacon of the church and a Sunday school bus driver. My mother, a Sunday school teacher. I went to Christian school. But from the time I was a little girl, I was a questioner, and I came up. I'm a child of the '60s, so I came up during the '70s. And
me too.
Okay, so you know. And here's the deal: what were we told? Don't ask questions. Do as you're told.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got in a lot of trouble.
Oh, because I'm a Gemini. So they like to say Geminis have split personalities, but seriously, it's really not that at all. It's a Gemini has access to the heavens and the earth. So they have the physical realm. Wow. And then they have this very deep, deep side that is very spiritual and is a messenger. And
wow.
It's
wow. What month is that? What's your birthday?
In June.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's my wife and my daughter too. I think they're Geminis. June, Abigail's the 15th and Jill's the 19th. So
I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
So then Gemini is very well.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by split personalities. I'm kidding. And I'm a Cancer. I don't know what that means, but
well, you're in the Cancers are in the media. They're very grounded in family. They love to give information out. They usually have a lot of knowledge in various areas of information.
That pretty much sums it up right there. So you came back from dying, and you were laying on your bed in your home.
Yeah.
And I mean, holy crap, you had to like come to and go, what was that all about? Right. Or so I would think, I don't know, like you would suddenly have this realization that, wow, right? Didn't you? Did you? I
Yeah.
would imagine.
Okay. So all of the negative energy that I had
Yeah.
experienced physically in this physical world was eliminated from me. And I had been filled with universal love, this
Wow.
source of energy that is everywhere present. It always has been, it always will be. And so I'm, seeing myself descend back into my dead body. And when I come to, suddenly I saw who I truly was. I was this skeleton. I mean, I saw me, but I was vibrating. We want to call, nowadays we use the word vibe, and we use vibrations, and we use frequencies, and you can feel that coming off of each other. Well, in this situation, suddenly I was vibrating at a frequency of pure love. So I had all these spiritual gifts. I had
Wow.
telepathy, I had clairvoyance, I could look at you in your eyes, and I knew where you were in your consciousness.
Wow.
I knew if you were lying. I knew, all of these things, because think about it. We're shed from the lower frequencies of this world, and we're invited into, you said earlier, this place of heaven. Well, what heaven really is, it's a state of mind. It's a state
Yeah.
of mind. And it's always. And when we realize we're one with everything, we have never been separate. See, we want to call it God. We want to call it our higher power, infinite intelligence,
Yeah.
divine. But in reality, it's us. I mean, we are a piece of this allness, and we have access to use those same attributes of the allness, love, harmony, abundance, balance, light. We have access to that same power.
Yeah.
You hear, obviously, I grew up in religion, and, you hear that's blasphemy for you to, you would have the same powers as God, the I am.
Right.
But there's no separation. There's no
Right.
separation.
Right. I totally agree. And here's the thing is, I mean, I've said something similar, like, but Jesus, it's written in the Bible that Jesus said, you'll do even greater things than I've done. Right. And so I think that, so you see, you come back and you have all of this knowledge, this love, this pure love, you've shed all the negativity, and now life has to be completely 1000% different for you.
So that's a whole other story in itself. So let me just share with you that even though I was awakened to this magnificence that I was, let's use the Bible for example. What the
Yeah.
Bible truly is stories of different levels of consciousness, different levels of realization, where
Right.
individuals surrendered and they came in direct contact with the I am within them, and were
Yeah.
led and guided and inspired, at whatever periods of time those were. And so when Jesus said, "Ye are gods," he was the individualized example of,
Yeah.
we can call it the Father living through Jesus. And Jesus
Right.
had surrendered at that level where he completely allowed himself to be the vehicle, the messenger, to deliver
Right.
these messages of, this infinite loving nature, this source of energy that is available to each and every one of us. And he told, how many times did he say that in the Bible over and over and over? And he,
Yeah.
this Father, my Father, will make all the crooked roads straight. But all you need to do is surrender and allow.
Yes. Gosh, I love this. And because I've had these same exact conversations and I haven't died. so,
I love it. You
well,
have to die to access this. This is the beauty of it.
right. I agree. So, so you come back and you said you had all of this, but
Yes.
you weren't there. Like you weren't ready
Okay,
to
exactly.
shine.
Yes, because think about it. When you become, it's like me telling, the world all this stuff that I'm sharing right now, and you're
Yeah.
receiving it, and you're like, whoa, this is amazing. You mean I have the ability to create anything in my life, that I create my own reality, but you still haven't embodied it. You haven't
Right.
embodied that truth to be it, to be
Right.
from that level of belief that, each and every one of us is at our own level of belief. We're the people who block our
Yep.
greatest good, who block all of our desires, because we're over here trying to drive. We're trying to be in the driver's seat, controlling the how. And
Yeah.
we don't realize when we want something, and you go back to The Secret, for example, and The Secret said, your wish is my command. And
Right.
you're thinking, okay, I want $1 million and I want to win the lottery, but you don't realize that your level of consciousness is still in the belief that there's not enough, that you're not,
Right.
that you're not deserving. And I said earlier that everything is a vibration. It's a frequency. It's a feeling, an emotion. So if you're here being from right now in the belief that there's not enough and I can't pay my rent and nobody likes me, you're putting out that feeling, that belief out into the universe. And everything in the universe has its own vibe, its own music, its own sound wave. And
Right.
if you're being from right here in lower vibrations and you're putting that out, whatever is like you is being pulled back consciously and unconsciously.
Yep. I love it. So wow.
So
So
okay, what happened? Because I get off on that because I'm so passionate about sharing this stuff and teaching, and okay. So let me just say that I was told in the light that I never had to worry, that all the right people would show up at the right moment to help me move forward. I was shown this version of Sherry that I am
Yep.
today, and I am becoming more and more. I was shown her. Ooh, I got the chills as I'm saying this. I've
had chills for 10 minutes. So
Okay, so now it's no longer me. Now I'm just allowing the spirit to speak through me. But the truth of it is here's the rub. It's before we come into the body, before we're born,
yeah.
we are all shown what we are going to potentially fulfill in this lifetime. And we believe we can remember who we truly are as spiritual beings, the power, what we have access to. And so when I was shown Sherry's potentials, I was shown them from the Sherry that had already fulfilled them. Her love was incredible.
Oh my gosh.
Her playing, her over the top, living to be, living to be, living to be. That was her. And I was shown that from her. And I don't want to start crying, but she cared so deeply, unconditionally. There was no judgment. She saw people for the essence of who they truly are. The face of God, the face of the universe, the face of this infinite power that is so loving and so caring. And she saw that from the true her. And so when I was coming back into my body, I was first given time to decide. I was given the choice. And coming back into my body, and the last thing that was said to me was, and you must help the world to understand that they must give of themselves freely without expecting. And love is all there is. And I was told to tell.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just got chills again. So, wow. I don't even, what about the people? Cause I don't even have to guess at this. I know there are people that have called you a liar. There are people that say, oh, this is a bunch of horse malarkey. And because I think that it's natural. I was just reading a book I'm reading this book called Beyond Positive Thinking for the third time. It's an amazing book. And, I think that the essence of most humans walking this planet is we have these beliefs. And Tony Robbins talks about it, right? We have these beliefs, and he says your belief system's like the top of a table, and then it's all the legs under the table are the reinforcement of these ideas that somebody else programmed into you. And so we're walking around, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe, right? I love him, right? And he says that, here we are walking around, and 90% of our thoughts that we're having, of the 60,000 thoughts a day, we had yesterday, the same exact thoughts. And that 50% of the conversations we're having are BS. We're making them up as we go along, right? About our past. Like, it's not even real. So we're walking around living a lie that somebody else taught us, and we're judging people based on all that crap, instead of opening up your heart and going, hey, you know what? There's something else. And everybody, I believe, Sherry, I believe every person on this planet at probably many, 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 many moments in their life have looked at the world, looked around, and said, there's something else, man. There's more to this. There's more. This can't be it. Like, this can't be all there is.
That's right.
And you're confirming that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and like I said earlier, I came back into the planet and I was told to tell. And this is 1997. And the interesting part is I died on February 13th, 1997, Friday the 13th.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And if you go back through history and you research the number 13, it was one of the most holiest numbers. People have tried to, they say from the time of the Templar Lars,
wow.
when the Templar Lars, had all those issues, and so but the real truth is, if you research it, the Last Supper was held on the 13th day. The 13 means death, rebirth, and transformation. Now we're bringing in more feminine energy, more nurturing energy to the planet. And so it's also about the divine feminine. It's about, realizing, if you look at the infinite, almost like it's like the womb of a woman. And we have up here what's called the masculine, and we could say God. When you have a thought, a first thought, it gets dropped in to what's called the law of attraction, or the feminine. And if you think about the law of attraction is like a cog on the wheel. It's just saying yes, yes, yes. And so it's saying yes to all your negative thoughts, yes to all your positive thoughts. And it's bringing experiences, like I was describing earlier, into your now moments.
Wow.
And so when they say, like, when we talk about all the greatest philosophers in the world that have ever come, their primary message has been, be present, live in the moment. Because the moment is revealing to you who you are being, consciously and unconsciously, what you're putting out. So the struggle for us as human beings is when an experience shows up and it sucks, we want to attach at the same energy that's showing up. And so we bring more of that into our life because we're attached emotionally to what's in front of us. When in reality, it's just basically saying to us, hey, you, look at you. This is a mirror of you. And you have the power in this moment. You have the choice in this moment of awareness to shift that feeling emotion, not to attach to it. But I like to describe to my clients to go into this, what is it I really want? If you create a habit of asking that question, what is it I really want? I really wanted to be traveling all over the world, helping people of all ages discover their own greatness. Ooh, as I say that, I feel the vibrations and the chills, because that's my truth. I'm connected to that spirit within me. And I go deeper. Is that what I really want is to be in a moment right here, right now, talking about, lifting people, motivating and inspiring people. But that's the joy of this, is when you get to this place, it's living in the moment, because you still have all this imprinting, like you're talking about, these beliefs that aren't even your beliefs.
Right. Right. But we claim them, man,
Well,
because we have to. We have to. I think that it's a survival mechanism
mhm,
that we have.
it is. It is.
Like you can't be brought up in an Amish family and say, but I want to be a computer programmer at 7 years old. Like that you're the no, that's wrong. So, again, and I think that it becomes so ingrained in us that we never question it ever. And I've been a huge questioner myself throughout my entire life. Like, man, hold on a minute. Something's not adding up here. Like I like why do 7 billion people believe this and I don't? Like I
Right.
don't think it's that way exactly. So you came back and moving a little further down the road, when did you kind of have a because other things happen to you as well in life? Like that was at 30, you die, you come back, you have all this information, but you don't immediately start using it, right? Really.
Well,
Um,
I tried to tell because I was told to tell, and of course, my basis of what I had been raised in, religion.
yeah,
I tried to tell these experiences, in
yeah,
the Christian church, and at the time, we're approaching Y2K. We're approaching
yeah,
what we call, Christians thought was the end of the world, and
right,
I'm telling this from what had been communicated to me in the light. I'm telling, I am. We're supposed to say I am. And the church was saying to me, no, you don't say I am, you say he is. And I was told,
mm,
tell, and I'm telling, and ultimately I'm telling the pro bodybuilding world, I'm telling my family, and my everybody thought I was nuts. Everybody thought that something horrible had happened to me. And ultimately,
mm,
I like to say that I experienced the mystical story of Job, and
mm,
I had this amazing vision and
yeah,
was given this amazing insight to bring back to the world. And what ultimately ended up happening is I lost everything. I went from being this skeleton to
wow,
gaining almost 100 pounds overnight because, now I'm bringing in food again. And in
right,
a very short time, my body was like a sponge. So it soaked up all the, nutrients it was trying to receive because it thought I was going to starve it again.
right,
And so now I'm almost 200 pounds. I lost all
wow,
my hair because I had not eaten for so long and I was living on chemicals that my hair had all fallen out, and I had, long hair prior to all this. And I ended up, having to get like a little Dorothy Hamill haircut. You remember Dorothy Hamill?
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I had to get a little
yeah,
Dorothy Hamill haircut, but I ended up walking homeless on the streets. My father, I've gone through these forgiveness stages. My father basically said, "You made your bed, you lie in it," and
wow,
and my mother was married to a man the same age as me, and at the time he said, "I'm not responsible for your grown daughter and her choices." And so my mom took me up to the forest, and she took me up with tents and lounge chairs and food. And so I lived in the forest, but at the time I had to go way to the outskirts of the forest because I didn't have any money, and I didn't have,
wow,
there's another part of the story that's very deep, very profound of, where I was when I hit bottom. I was in Vegas, and I
mm,
had been surrounded by, what we like to say in movies, the Italian mafia. And
yeah,
and yes, it's deep, and yes, it's another part of the story, but ultimately the people that had, been in my life at the time basically said, "You made your bed, you lie in it." And so I lived out into the forest with my children. And of course, people wanted to judge me and say, "How could you?" And,
yeah,
be out there with your children. But it was part of my path. It was part of, what's created the woman I am today. This amazing, beautiful, caring woman came as a result of releasing, letting go of judgment, letting go of other people's opinions. And just like I said earlier, I'm out in the outskirts of the forest, and I don't have any money. And
wow,
I overhear somebody in the campground next to me, and it's this man telling this group of people about his own near-death experience. And I'm like, whoa, did I hear that? And so I walk over there and I said to the guy, I said, listen, I had mine as well. And
Wow.
so that weekend, I shared my story with the whole group of men. It was a men's gathering, and that's why they were out there. And they
Wow.
shared food with us. They shared all of their fishing equipment. They took me and the kids fishing. And at the end of the weekend, he came to me and he says, listen, he says, you forever changed me and helped me move to the next level. He says, here's $15. This is all that I have. He says, but I want you to have it. And I said to
Wow.
you earlier that I had been told in the light that I never had to worry, that all the right
Right.
people would show up at the right moment. Well, that was just one of the stories that I can tell on the journey of the last 22 years of what has shown in my life in the moment to help
Wow.
me move forward. I mean, yeah, it sounds horrible, the story. And yeah, oh my God, she was homeless on the streets and, went through this crazy, amazing, incredible adversity. But literally, people showed up moment after moment after moment, the more that I allowed and got out of the way.
I think, though, as amazing as that is, I think you would agree that that occurs for all of us,
That's right.
but we fail to recognize it. We fail to give it any power at all. Like, we ignore it because of the ego wanting to be so right all the time, right?
Yep.
And so you just started allowing life to happen instead of trying to allow your ego to force what was going to happen. It sounds like I'm not, I don't mean to be.
No, it's exactly right.
Yeah. So so eventually you got out of the forest. Right. So what happened next along the journey?
Well, believe it or not, I got out of the forest. I got a place.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had, we have an intuition, we
Yeah.
have the six senses, and the six senses are what ground us to this earth. And,
Right.
there are levels of fear, and there are levels of, not being able to move out of this belief system because it seems so real.
Right.
We don't
Right.
realize we're making it more real by the power we give it based on, I like to call it accrued thinking. So if we think a thought for 16 seconds and we analyze and we rationalize and we scrutinize that thought, in another 16 seconds, we think that thought. And we're giving it power upon power upon power. So by the time you get to 60 seconds, you have given this thought so much power that you're causing the effects that are showing up in your now moments. And so, with these struggles we have in our thinking, we've all been given access. And one of my first mentors, I said that I have had all these amazing people show up. One of my first mentors was Michael Beckwith from the movie.
Wow.
And he was my mentor literally in 1998.
Wow.
Many years before The Secret ever came into existence.
Right.
I was taken from the forest to this place, and intuitively I kept feeling pulled to Venice Beach, because one of the things that was shown to me in my near-death experience is that I would become world renowned as in the fitness industry, that I would know, people would know my name, and I would be very well known. And I didn't know when that was going to happen ultimately, because I was shown that I would make a comeback drug-free, completely natural.
Wow.
And so, I said to myself, okay, I'm being pulled to Venice Beach. So I ended up in Venice Beach, and I'm living in a commune.
Wow.
In a commune. And see, when we surrender at this level,
Yeah.
it's going to be mystical things that happen that you can't describe in human terms. It's because you're surrendering. And so what happened was a postcard arrived one day, and it said my name on it. It said Sherry Gideons. And everything that was on that postcard was talking about what I had been told in my near-death experience, that I was the creator of my reality, that I was an individualized expression of the I am, that I had access to this power at any moment. And the address to Michael Beckwith's church was on that postcard. And
Wow.
at the time, I only had a bicycle. And I had my son at the time who was a baby. And so I could not go. I knew that I was being pulled to this church. And so I get on my bicycle and I have to ride, go on my bicycle, probably, I don't know, I don't remember now, 5, maybe 10 miles on my bicycle to go to where this church was located. And at the time it was, when he still had fold up chairs and,
Yeah.
big as it is now. But honestly, he basically held me in his arms and hugged me. And when he spoke, I felt like God was speaking to me only directly.
Wow.
It was so freaking powerful. And so what
Wow.
he says, here's what he says. This is so amazing. He says, when we come into this planet, that we take on the historical imprinting of society. And so when we come into this family that we're born into, we assume their beliefs, their fears, their judgments. And then we move out into the world and we take on more of the world's imprinting. When in reality, we're this amazing individualized I am. And have access to anything and everything. And so that's what happens to us throughout our lives, is we just assume more and more of people's belief systems instead of, like you and I were talking about earlier, getting quiet, meditating. That's when you can tap in to this power that you are, and you can access it, and you just stop everything and get still.
One of my favorite, well, I mean, it's the Bible. If we go to the Bible,
Yes,
be still and know that I am God.
that's right.
That's a scripture. The kingdom of God is within you.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said that. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of its righteousness, and all of these things shall be revealed or given unto you, depending on which version you read, right? So, like, to me, that means, like, dude, just turn it off for a minute and go inside. All that you seek, all the answers they're there. God put them there. It's there. It's already there. Like, they are there. Just go look for them. Seek and ye shall find. It's there, right?
Yes.
Wow, this is unbelievable. So here you are now at Michael Beckwith's church, and for those that don't know who he is an amazing spiritual teacher being. Just, the guy is incredible. So, what happened from there?
Well, just as I was saying earlier, I kept being led into the next moments, because you have to realize, still I'm dealing with my own unconscious old stuff too.
Right.
Beliefs, my old stuff. Just because I was shown what I was shown, and I was awakened to this realization, because that's really what it is for each of us. Each of us comes into this, realization period of our lives. And so I'm awakened to this realization, but I still have all that old stuff that needs to be surrendered, need to be let go of. And so I'm still experiencing adversity. I mean, I ended up going back into the professional industry, and I'm training at Gold's Gym. And, you have to realize you're a light unto the world. And I'm attracting all these people. I'm pulling to me, whatever is going on in my own vibrations. And I meet this particular guy that says, I want to, basically be a promoter of you. I want to take you back into the professional industry, and I want to give you the money. And he was a coach to one of the English Olympic track stars. And he says, okay, well, I'm going to pay for both of you to live on Venice Beach in a house. And so he ends up paying for us to get a house. And I later discovered that what he really wanted was a relationship with me.
Oh, wow.
And so if we talk about how I attracted that experience or that vibration, there was still a part of me looking outside of myself, thinking
Right.
I needed to get my needs met in the outer world, you know,
Mm-hmm.
by selling my soul,
Mm-hmm.
by, looking for somebody in, outside to supply my needs. And so I ended up where, I got very clear and made it clear to him that that was not where I was in my mindset. And I was looking for him as a promoter. So when I gave him that truth, my truth,
Yeah.
he basically said, I'm out of here. And,
Mm.
and I ultimately, basically lost everything again, ended up homeless again. And at the time, I was such an open, loving individual. So I would go and ride my bicycle all over Venice Beach, and I would take the time to talk to the homeless people. And I never looked at them as if they were less than me. I always honored them and beheld them for the truth of who they were, the essence of who they were. So I would have these conversations with them, and they would say to me that a lot of reasons why they were homeless was because of the freedom, not because of circumstances, not because of anything other than the choice to be free.
I love that, though. There's there's a book called The Spirituality of Imperfection.
Mm-hmm.
And they there's a story about that very thing, and I won't go into it, but it's when we surrender to all of the need to have all of the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I love having nice stuff, but I'm not one of those people that is attached to it. Like I could be just as happy living in a tent, which I've done, as living in an amazing home, which I am currently. Right. So my so as you went down this road, and I cannot believe we've already, like, this is a 60-minute show. We've been on here 52 minutes already. we can go over, though, whatever. It's my show, and it's the internet. So
There you go.
But as you were going down this path, I mean, again, here you are fighting, like all of us, you're fighting yourself,
That's
really.
exactly what I was doing.
You're fighting yourself. You're not surrendering to what you knew ultimately you were going to have to end up surrendering to anyway, right? So here you are fighting, and you say homeless. I've been homeless, but it's not like it really isn't that bad, especially in Venice Beach. Like, but again, it's like everybody else on this planet. The things that you need to survive just do show up.
They do.
They really do. And people don't realize how much control we have over that via art right there. Right. It starts there and aligning with your heart. But so here you are, you're attracting things, odd circumstances, good and bad. And what happens next?
Well, I just, like I said, everybody's showing up at the right moment. So,
Yep.
The cool thing is as I am releasing
Yeah.
these old parts of myself, we struggle with looking back. We don't realize that it's when we look back at the past that we bring in all those emotions and those vibes from the past. And so before we know it, we're over here recreating the past over and over and over again. As I said earlier, the object is to get clear about what you want, to
Right.
live in the now. And we're over here, and we now have been told this information that I'm sharing, and you probably heard before, but we're embodying it at the level of the intellectual. So
Yeah.
we're not believing it, we're not embodying it and allowing what it is we truly desire to be pulled to us, we're over here in the way trying to analyze, rationalize, and scrutinize the how. The how is infinite. It's beyond what you and I could ever articulate. So if we look at this as an infinite universe, there's infinite avenues, channels, and opportunities for the how to manifest in our now moments. So the more that we embody the feeling of what it is we really want from the place that it's already so. So that means be it now. So if you're a millionaire, how would you be right now as a millionaire? Would you have a smile on your face like a Cheshire cat?
Right.
You know, would you be jumping up for joy? You know, you have to be it today, because from that beingness, you have surrendered to this infinite power, this source, this God, this loving presence that's omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and it is out there pulling and bringing to you all of these things that you truly desire. But in my case, through this story, I'm releasing the parts of me that no longer served me. And so I had to go through these experiences in order to be this woman that I had been shown in the light, because I can meet you and anybody right at your level, right where you're at. So if it's religion you're at, I can speak from that. Just like you've been doing, Ken, where you have been sharing the Bible. Yeah, think about it. The Bible are stories of different levels of consciousness, different levels of being. And so they shared that story from where they were at.
Yeah.
And so that's what my story has allowed me to do. It may, you know, I like to say it like this. I've been obese, drug addicted, bulimic, anorexic, had money, lost money, walked the streets homeless twice, been in the pro bodybuilding world, lived with the Italian mafia. Whoa. Does that sound pretty crazy and far out?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in order to be this woman who can share this story with courage and strength and self-love. See, I found self-love, self-validation in here, not out there, not out in the physical world. It doesn't exist out there. You'll never fill your cup the way you do in here. And that's what I discovered. And so, you know, and I haven't even gotten into the fact that I had a second near death, a second heart attack, and died in 2004. I haven't said anything about that and how I was able to heal that. This is available to all of us.
You died a second time?
Yes, I got pregnant with twins at 39.
Wow.
And I already had grown children, you know. I mean, at the time they were 10 and 16.
Wow.
And let me back up for a second. So I owned a health club at the time, and I exercised and taught classes during the entire pregnancy. And, you know, in the beginning, I had told the doctor about the previous heart attack, and he says, oh, well, that's, you know, been over 5 years. And, you know, if you've already been exercising, that you'll be fine. Continue to do it. Well, about 2 weeks before the delivery of the twins, I literally swelled up like a tomato ready to burst.
Oh my gosh.
It was really bad. And so the doctor says, well, it's not toxemia and it's not preeclampsia, because that would have occurred at the beginning of, you know, when you first got pregnant, first trimester. Well, what ended up happening was, I went into delivery. I ended up having to have a C-section because one of the twins had a side insertion, which is where their umbilical cord is attached to your waist, on the side of your waist.
Oh my gosh.
The doctor says, well, we're going to have to do a C-section. And long story short, I was nursing one of the twins, and she was projectiling, like literally like throwing up across the room. And I said to the nurse at the time, I said, gosh, what's wrong with my baby? And the nurse says, well, she's probably still got some amniotic fluid in her lungs. So sucking out the nose, and we'll keep sucking out the mouth. Well, probably about 11 o'clock at night, that night of delivery, they brought the baby to me, and it was the same thing. And intuitively, I knew there was something wrong.
Right.
So I said to, you know, the nurse, I called the nurse and I said, you know, there's something wrong with my baby. And she says, well, let me take her and let me watch her. And about an hour later, she came back and she says, I've called the doctor. She says, I tried to stick a tube down her throat and it goes nowhere. And so she calls the doctor about,
Wow.
yeah, it went nowhere. And so the doctor comes in and she says to me, listen, she says, we've done some x-rays. We've tried to stick a tube down your daughter's throat. And basically she has what's called trachea esophaga fistula. So basically a box grew right here to her throat.
Oh my gosh.
So she had the opening, but a box grew right here. And then her esophagus grew to her lungs. And
Oh,
and so when she was projectiling, the milk was going nowhere. It was just
oh my.
staying in her mouth. And so they told me what causes that. They called it an anomaly. And they say that somewhere in the first trimester, usually the first 6 weeks of delivery, that you basically the baby stops growing. And
Wow.
and ultimately in this case, you can call it divine intervention, but somewhere all of a sudden the baby starts growing again, and they can't detect it through amniocentesis, because of my age. They did every test, they did the amniocentesis, but they say you can't detect that in tests. And so in this case, they immediately medevaced her to a special children's hospital, and
Oh,
and immediately began what they call a throat reconstruction. So
gee.
yeah, it's pretty intense.
Oh my gosh.
But it kind of goes back into what I've been sharing with you. So in this instance, they come back and they give me the worst case scenario. Her esophagus may not be long enough,
Yeah.
to attach back to the throat. She maybe have to go through 2 years of a feeding tube in her belly button while they stretched the esophagus out to be long enough to attach to the throat.
Jeez.
But literally, they gave me that worst case scenario. I went into what's called spoken word. And, I talked about, the different mentors and people that showed up in my life. So from Michael Beckwith, I eventually became a licensed spiritual practitioner, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which is where you have the recognition of aligning with the spirit within you and you see only the truth. And so in my situation, I began to recognize that God was all there was: one source, one power, one infinite intelligence. And from that recognition, I embodied that this source's power is within me, as well as Haley, as well as you, as well as the next person. And in
Right.
recognizing that, I began to declare the truth. The truth is that there is a mighty power moving and having its beingness within her. Its source is whole, perfect, and complete. And in knowing that, I am in great gratitude. I am in such great gratitude. And so then I release it. I release it to the action of the law, the action of God, and I allow it to be so. And so as I spoke that, he came back and he says to me, literally, we got the best case scenario. He says, we were able to detach the esophagus from the lungs. We were able to reattach the esophagus to the throat. And, she has what's called hemivertebrae. So like you and I, we have, full vertebrae all the way
Right.
in our spine. Well, in Haley's
Right.
case, in her upper thoracics, this is how our shoulders go. Haley has a half vertebrae in her upper thoracics and an extra rib. And in her lower lumbar, the lower base of her back, she has a hemivertebrae. And here's the thing that's amazing, the way this works is that her head is positioning itself in a way that's correcting the upper issue, and her left leg is longer than the right leg. You would never know any of this unless I'm telling you right now.
Wow.
This child is 100% whole, perfect, and complete.
Wow.
And, moving
Wow.
forward just a little bit here. So they released me and let me go to the Ronald McDonald Charity House.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm living at the Ronald McDonald Charity House.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I can't breathe. And I'm laying and I told my husband, I said, my God, there's something wrong with me. I can't breathe. And I could hear popping and fizzing coming out of my mouth, like the Pop Rock candy when we were kids.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, my husband says, well, let's call the doctor. So he calls the doctor, and we lived an hour away. We lived in a small town in outside of Sacramento in Yuba City.
Yeah.
And so I was in my head and I thought, oh my God, we need to go back to my doctor. And so
Yeah.
we get in there and they are literally running tests for about 5-6 hours from the waist down. And they come back and they said, well, can't find anything wrong. Maybe it's stress. Maybe you've, got a small infection. Let's give you some antibiotics.
Wow.
He sends me back to the Ronald McDonald Charity House. And each day from Wednesday until Saturday, I am getting worse. I'm going crazy. I'm senile. I am not able to sleep anymore. I'm trying to nurse the other baby. And
Wow.
I'm feeling, all this numbness in my left arm. I'm telling my husband, there's something wrong with me. And he's like, Sherry, calm down. There's nothing wrong with you. It's stress. You
Yeah.
just need to relax. And I'm going crazy by this point because I can't breathe. I'm struggling for breath.
Wow.
Fast forward to Saturday, my husband's so stressed out for me that he says, listen, I got to get out of here for a little bit. I'm going to go visit the baby in the NICU unit. And while he's gone visiting the baby, I'm in the bathroom and I know I'm going to die. I know there's something wrong. And I'm thinking,
What?
yeah, I am now not able to breathe and I'm struggling for air and I'm begging God at the same time to save me, to help me and to help them find out what's wrong with me.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my husband comes back, and I'm not kidding you, Ken. I'm like literally 100-year-old lady. I could not walk from the toilet back to the bed. And
Oh
so
my gosh.
my husband's trying to carry me. And at this point I'm cussing. I'm saying, mother F, you know what? Mother F in hospital, or I'm going to
Right.
die. I'm not going to be here for these kids. And so, he gets me in the car and I'm crying and I'm screaming and I'm telling him I'm going to die tonight. And so we lived in this small town, and I didn't realize that one hospital was for delivering babies and the other hospital was the emergency room. So I
Yeah.
made him take me to the hospital I had delivered the babies at. And I'm struggling to get up to the door, and I'm ringing the bell and I'm pushing it and pushing it. And this guy peeks his head out and he says, can I help you? And I said, I am very sick. I said,
Wow.
I can't breathe. I said, there's something horrible wrong with me. Please help me. And he turns the lights on. He opens the door. He says, you know what? Let me take your blood pressure. And so he takes my blood pressure and he says, oh my God. He says, you're in cardiac arrest. He says, I have got to call emergency, the ambulance. So he gets me inside and he lays me on the ground and he calls the ambulance. And last thing I remember the ambulance coming and, they're giving me that nitro and they got 2 IVs in my arms and they're taking me to this other hospital. And so when I get there, of course they've got the EKGs out, they're running all these tests, and they came back and they said basically that I was in the middle of cardiac arrest. They didn't know why, and it was their job to find out. And so basically what they decided to do was sedate me. So they sedated me for like about 12 hours. And while they sedated me, they ran tests. And during this time, I had another trip to a white light. And in this visit, it wasn't as long, but ultimately I was embraced again in pure love. And I was basically told, you know who you are. You know why you came. You know what you're meant to do. And go deliver that. Go share that. Go be that. And so I remember coming back into my body and I could hear screaming, it seemed like outside, and it seemed like my husband's voice. And he opened the door, and he looked at me, and it looked like death was all over his face. And he was so sad. And I said to him, I says, am I going to die? I said, what's wrong? And basically he says that they told him that I had, little over 30% heart function, that I was going to be on my back waiting for a heart transplant, and that I would never exercise again. And a few minutes later, the doctor came in, and he kind of reiterated the same story. He says, listen, he says, you had what's called cardiomyopathy. And he says that 1 in 20,000 women who deliver a baby or babies over the age of 35 have the chance of developing a rare heart disease. And I was one of the, 1 in 20,000 women. And cardiomyopathy basically is congestive heart failure. So when all that talking and fizzing was going on in my mouth, I was drowning on my liquids.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. Mm-hmm. So you died a second time.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. And you were like, I would imagine that somebody's like, hey, stop being homeless and get your crap together.
Here's the cool thing about the doctor is, when he gave me this diagnosis, I said to him, I said, listen, I said, I have had another near-death experience previously. I know who I am. I know what I'm meant to do. And I said to him, I'm going to heal to 100%. And he looks at me and he says, I'm a believer in positivity. He says, but we need to look at this realistically. He says, you have over 30% heart function. You need a heart transplant. And
wow.
Yeah. And I said to him, I said, I'm going to show you what's possible for all of us. And so, I know we're getting past time. So fast forward, just to give the end of the story. Here's the beauty of the story. The beauty of it is I had already trained with transformational leaders worldwide. I'd already trained with, Bob Proctor and Michael Beckwith and, Mary Morrissey, and these amazing people, have also had their stories and brought this message forward to the world. But in this situation, I never connected to the diagnosis of dis-ease. Dis-ease came up in my body probably because of things that were going on in my life, in me, during that pregnancy, during that situation. And so in this situation, I made the decision in that moment that I wasn't going to embody that diagnosis. I wasn't going to take it on as my truth, and I wasn't going to own it, and I wasn't going to give it power. So instead of, following that process, I acted as if I was already well. So when I went back to my health club, everybody would say, have you planned your will? Are you gonna, how you care your children? And the typical questions that people want to ask, when there's a situation like this that has happened. But in this case, I literally said, how about we talk about how I'm going to outweigh the odds, how I'm going to persevere, how I'm going to win and heal to 100%. And fast forward 3 years later, I acted every day as if I was whole, perfect, and complete. I would go into my imagination, and I would use the powers of my imaginative power, and that's called your mental faculties. I would step out into the mental faculties, and I would see my heart pumping perfectly. I would watch my arteries flowing with blood perfectly, and oxygen purification, and then when I had my visits with my doctor, like I sung to you earlier, I would do the same thing to him. I'd come in there and I'd be singing and I'd be telling him what I was going to show him. He just thought I was nuts. But honestly, fast forward 3 years later, we developed this amazing, playful, freaking awesome relationship. And I walk in one day and he says to me, have a seat, girl. We need to talk. And he says to me, guess what? You are the most amazing person I have ever met in my life. And he says, as a medical doctor, I believe in positivity. He says, but what you shared with me that day was beyond the scope of my system. And he says, beyond what I was able to share with other people, because he says, people aren't ready at that level of awareness to recognize that they're creating the cancer. They're creating the sickness, the disease, whatever is showing up, they are creating. And so he says, when you came across and are giving me this information, he says, it was just more than I was ready to hear. And anyway, he says, listen, you are 100% healed. And your medication is actually now harming you rather than helping you. And he says, over the next 2 weeks, we're going to wean you off of all your medication. And he says, and literally, Ken, to this day right now, I've had 2 heart attacks, and they can't tell that I've had any heart attacks.
That's incredible. I absolutely, I knew that kind of. I mean, I had a feeling, I guess, that was the outcome. You're amazing. And I think that you do have to tell the world. And I know that for anybody watching that has hung in here with us, thank you for that, for sure.
To talk, I said that.
But like you have a book coming?
Yes. So right now I'm in the middle of writing it because it's now the time. And I haven't figured out what the subtitle is going to be, but honestly, I really want to do the title of the book, Living to Be the Real Me. And it goes for everybody. Living to be the real you. You deserve it. You're worthy of it.
I love that. You are absolutely amazing. I have this pre-planned to show everybody. Go, if you want to connect with Sherry, go to her website. There it is, scrolling across the bottom, sherrygideons.com. And follow you where? Facebook? Are you on Instagram?
I am. And so I'm on Facebook, Sherry Gideons. I'm on Instagram at Sherry Gideons.
Yeah.
What else? What else is there?
LinkedIn, Twitter.
Yep, I'm on LinkedIn. Sherry Gideons.
TikTok. Are you on TikTok yet?
No, but everybody's been telling me to do it.
You have to.
I heard. I know. I have a friend who's on it, and she's a riot.
I love TikTok. It's awesome. So yeah, you got to get on TikTok. But Sherry, thank you from the bottom of my heart and my soul. You are an amazing, just amazing woman. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
And to everyone who shared this out and has watched, thank you. My wife is on here. She says, wow. I got to throw that up right there. There it is. So, yeah, I mean, you're just amazing. And your message, everybody needs to hear your message for sure. So, thank you.
You bet.
I don't know what else to say. Just thank you. You're amazing. So
yes. Woohoo!
All right. We'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. And we will see you all very, very soon. Sherry, thanks again.
Thank you.